Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tato's Hardcore Media. Looking at this presidential directive, where some states, the president, buffoon, dictator in chief, um, has called out National Guard in some states um, to quell voting, voters, stuff like that. Anyways, let's give JLR. Let's see what's going on real quick.
In less than 48 hours until election day. Just 48 hours, folks. We got election day. It's coming up very, very fast, and we'll be covering a lot of this on JLR Investigates. Not necessarily the candidates themselves, but just what happens, after election day in reference to possible civil unrest, arrests, voter fraud, a lot of that kind of stuff. We don't promote a particular candidate on this channel, but a lot of you guys have your candidate and you feel like a certain person can lead the nation moving forward. But we're going to talk about a issue here, a particular DOD directive, 5240.01. And there's a lot of buzz about 5240.01 that's circulating around the internet. In particular, this defense directive that got changed a little bit at the end of September 2024. Just over a month ago, a little thing got changed in there. And there's a lot of buzz because there's a lot of people speaking out about DOD Directive 5240.01, and they're claiming, folks, now listen to this, they are claiming that it gives the U.S. military authorization to use deadly force on Americans. Now, that's pretty shocking because you figure the PCA doesn't allow that whatsoever, but things are different. Things are different here. And is there any truth to this or not? Does the Pentagon and the military have authorization now because of this directive, 5240.01, to use deadly force on people, possibly people challenging the election? We're going to talk about it because there's a lot of people speaking out about this. Joe Rogan was just speaking about it the other day. Ron Paul was talking about it. There was Judge Joe Brown, who was at a Kamala Harris campaign office, was talking about it. Glenn Beck kind of gives some insight about it. And the mainstream media was fact-checking this, though some of the fact-checking, they say it's misleading. They don't say no and they don't say yes. So this is very interesting. What in the world is going on here with Directive 5240.01. So we'll start out today listening to Glenn Beck because he summarizes it pretty good. And I think this needs to be brought to attention because I personally think, in my opinion, things are going to be rocking and rolling after Tuesday. I think whoever loses this election is not going to accept the results, and I think it could get very, very ugly very quickly here, and it might require the Supreme Court. It might require Congress, whoever has the majority in Congress, House, or it could involve the military, or it could be, the leaving party not accepting the results, or the person coming in. It's I'm just saying, 2020 was pretty bad, folks, after the election, January 6th. Pretty bad. Some people think it's justified. Other people say it's not. We don't support violence on JLR Investigates whatsoever, but I think it will I think whatever could possibly happen here would make January 6th look like a JV, right? Nothing like J6. This might be much, much, much worse, possibly, or it could go all smoothing. I just want to make that perfectly clear.
This is something Susan Descoteau, Posse Comitatus prohibits military operations on civilians. That's not true. The CIA military was contractors have been doing stuff on civilians since the 1950s with nuclear fallout, radiation tests. You have, of course, the cocaine on black people. You have also special operations contractors have done stuff with cattle mutilations. Uh, very all stuff's been classified, but some stuff can be looked up on Google with nuclear fallout and contaminations of streams, rivers, stuff like that can be hard to see, but um, there's a reason why I hate the U.S. government. I have no respect for the government, and I believe that uh, right to bear arms against government fully and stuff like that.
But it just doesn't seem like that. I'm very on my edge of my seat here. I'm very concerned about crime. I'm very concerned about anarchy. I'm very concerned about the military possibly using deadly force on Americans. We haven't seen that. The last time I could see or think about any time where military was shooting at people could be Kent State.
Yeah,
That's the time where I think of. But who knows? Who knows, folks? Let's get educated. Come on in. Let's get educated. Let's see what people are saying. Ron Paul speaks about it. You remember Ron Paul? Glenn Beck speaks about it. We're gonna talk. We're gonna do this one first. We're gonna do Glenn Beck's segment.
I'm also
Now listen to
here,
this. This is
so people have to say.
5240.01.
About a month ago, the Pentagon revised DoD Directive 5240.01. This is a directive that actually dates back to the Cold War and stipulates guidelines for if or when the U.S. military intelligence can assist domestic law enforcement. Well, before last month, there was a revision made in 2016, and it stipulates that military intelligence involvement is pursuant to presidential or congressional.
Military intelligence. This is something. I mean, I do talk with OnlyFans, and I don't do hardly anything on there except for I talk with some adult stars on there. And it's crazy because we've talked about some stuff with classified programs, classified stuff, and everything. And the corruption, sometimes the CIA, stuff like that, secret. Anyways, about how you can't trust the government. And you're talking about NIC, National Intelligence Committee, intelligence organizations. We have about at least 21 different intelligence organizations. Way too many. And they all have their own agendas, political, sociological, whatever. And they have an agenda for, let's just say it's not pro-democracy, it's more pro-dictatorship. And the stuff that how they view civilians is more like how China treats their civilians and stuff like that. And people need to really wake up and see how both sides and how intelligence is very corrupt and how they view the American people, and they don't believe that civilians, that the people should have constitutional rights. They believe it should be a dictatorship and people should be told how to live and stuff like that, and how to do things. It's very pro-government control.
Action. In other words, a time of war. And it also warns that, quote, it may not investigate U.S. persons or collect or maintain information about them solely for the purpose of monitoring activities protected by the First Amendment or the lawful exercise of other rights secured by the Constitution.
I could tell you right now, I know for a fact that the CIA NSA collects more information on American citizens than both Russia and China combined. This is a scary thing. It should scare people. Because they don't have our constitutional rights in mind. They don't care about that.
Whew, okay, so that's comforting. Also, the fact that the words lethal and deadly never show up. One time in this version of the directive, they didn't talk about that. But now, here's the new version. The words First Amendment were taken out. Why? It also includes levels of authority, and the language this time adds in lethality, lethal force, death, or serious bodily injury. Why? Why would there suddenly be a need to refine the rules on U.S. military intelligence spying on Americans? A few weeks of pivotal election. Why did they feel the need to add the potential use of those assets using lethal force just a few weeks before that election? Well, we asked the Pentagon to clarify, and we got back an email that was very similar to the fact sheet they recently gave to Congress. We obtained a copy of that fact sheet. So this is apparently a nothing burger. It's just business as usual. Well, this is the official explainer to Congress and explainers to lowly outlets such as us. The response they gave us stated, and I quote, "The reissue directive does not reflect any change towards the DoD's view toward its role in supporting civil authorities to include law enforcement. Rather, it provides clarification and delineation."
This is why I'm pro-guns and never even thinking of what we can have. We had different magazines, not magazines, but we had different type of rounds back in the days of the founders. Multi-round stuff like it wasn't just one round. But our forefathers saw a time. They foresaw a time in our Constitution, where they're talking about when our government could become a dictatorship. It's not just for self-defense. That's one of the first ones. Next one is from it becoming a dictatorship, which it will become. We will live in a dictatorship unless people do something about it. I have seen different futures. I've seen the future where this one becomes a dictatorship. But it's up to the people as well, and who they vote for, and to stop it from happening. And the thing is that people need to wake up, where that they're changing the laws, stuff like this. They're doing it for a reason. And I know that some celebrities I know think they hate guns, and guns don't kill people. Guns don't kill people. They can't go off by themselves and shoot and kill people. It takes a human being to do that. And with our population as high as it is, there's more shootings, and it has to do with mental health. It has to do with the mental health drugs that that people are taking, that could cause suicidal, homicidal thoughts. And believe me, I've done some pharmacy myself. And on drugs on the bottles, it can say may cause homicidal, suicidal thoughts. And so these drugs people are taking also, anyways, could cause people to go out, shoot others. Guns are there as they're there as a safeguard to deter dictatorship. And this is what I've been arguing. I see a future of dictatorship.
Delineates the approval authorities for activities conducted by the Defense Intelligence Components. While the paragraph that has been most frequently referenced on social media is new to this directive, it does not reflect any change to DoD's policy regarding the use of lethal force by DoD personnel. That is addressed in DoD D 5210.56, arming and the use of force. Revisions of DoD issuances are routine and ensure that departmental policies continue to be consistent with law and the executive branch policy, and that they clearly articulate departmental policy. The release was in no way timed in relation to the election or any other event. Right.
That's utter bullshit.
There's a bit more. We have the full statement up.
That's utter bullshit. It was perfectly tied with this election. This was made in September of this year, 2024. It was timed just for this. Not only that, but it breaks all parameters of freedom of speech and collection of our data. So that means they're taking everybody's data, see what you and I are saying on the internet. Data collection, which in my view should be illegal. Like I said, our country spies more on our own people than Russia and China combined. And they have all these different places across America that collects our data. The NSA and CIA has buildings and intelligence centers. People only knew.
glennbeck.com if you want to read it. But let me just summarize. Nothing to see here. The timing on the election is just a coincidence. And even though they added scary words, it doesn't change the meaning. And the DoD directive that they listed shows up as business as usual. DoD 5210.56. Now what the hell is that? Well, here it is. And to me, this looks just like guidelines for the military that do security around their own bases and things like that. Now, is it just me, or why is this being used as the example? This just is business as usual. Could be nothing, could be something. We really don't know. The government language as usual is so full of bureaucratic bullcrap, it's impossible to detect. This is a recent fact check done by the University of Washington. They state that, quote, the spread of this story is due to a data void. In other words, nobody's telling anything, so we don't know, so people speculate. At any rate, I find it suspicious, given the left's recent January 6th war game and what they discussed. Were these revisions made because of this war game? Just to reiterate one more time, everyone was briefed, including the Pentagon and Congress and the White House. Is there something being planned for Certification Day? I don't think so, but I don't know anymore.
So, I mean, both sides, I see the future of dictatorship. And it's not just Democrats. People say, I voted Trump for this, I vote blue, as somebody said here. The truth of the matter is, both sides benefit from dictatorship. Not allowing people freedom of speech because they want control our citizenry and how we think, and the dissemination of information. What we see, what we can see, what we can and cannot hear, what we can and cannot communicate across all internet and platforms, etc., etc., etc. This way it is across different countries and around the world.
Even Joe Rogan touched on this.
Good time to be a conspiracy theorist.
It's a good time to be a conspiracy theorist. It's a great time to be a comedian. These are the good days.
Isn't that the thing? Conspiracies, especially these days, are rooted in fact. You can't call them conspiracy theories or conspiracies if they're rooted in facts, because the problem is you need to root out the theories and put the facts out. Those percentages of 30%, not 100%, 30, 30, 30, 30, but those in there, get those facts out. The conspiracies these days rooted in facts.
It's the all or nothing days.
Yeah, these are the good days until the election, then who the fuck knows what happens.
Just fast forward to it.
Did you see this thing that the Biden administration pushed through? This new martial law thing?
Yeah.
This is very disturbing. Jamie, please Google this so we can find out what the actual law states, but it's DOD Directive 5240.01, giving the Pentagon power for the first time in history to use lethal force to kill Americans on U.S. soil who protest government policies.
Why would you
What
make
are
laws?
they expecting?
That's insanity, bloody insanity.
0.01, so it sounds right.
Is that what it is?
All right.
Did I tell you what it is? I'm sorry. 5240.01. DOD directive. This is from RFK Jr. Posted this on Twitter, and I'm finding out about it because people are blowing me up about it. That's fucking terrifying. That is a terrifying thing to push through for the first time in U.S. history, giving the military the ability to shoot and kill American citizens.
That's crazy too. It's interesting because, you know, with the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act and stuff like that, it's almost like they kind of, in a weird way, just make it legal what they're already doing. If you use
What is that? The Smith Modernization Act?
the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act that Obama pushed through, which basically made it so it was legal.
By the way, check his channel out. Give him a like. He deserves it. He has a lot better attitude than I do about certain things where I use expletives. It's just me and him have different opinions and ideologies on some things.
Legal for the U.S. government to use propaganda against its citizens, which they were already doing in different ways through CIA and all that stuff. So it's not like we can legally do it. You can't sue us now.
How crazy is it that it's legal to lie?
How
It's
crazy
legal
is that?
for the government to not just legally lie, but they can concoct completely fabricated stories just to push a narrative if they decide that it's in the best interest of national security or whatever.
To just manipulate energy in your mind and all that stuff to get you to believe certain things. And we need to bring back shame. That's my opinion.
Well, they have none.
We have to.
5240.01. 5240.01. Remember that. And even RFK just talked about it the other day. He was at a Turning Point USA event, and he talks about this. The reason why I'm bringing this out there, I want to know if it's legit or not. Does the U.S. military have authority to shoot Americans that challenge government functions or challenge the government? Things have changed. And what happens if that's true? Does that mean any American not happy with the election results
but they've
and want
always
to peacefully
had that
protest
authority.
the First Amendment?
They've always had that.
The military could shoot them?
I say one other thing. President Harris said
It depends on rules of engagement by generals and commanding officers. What are they comfortable with doing? Are they comfortable with shooting citizens? How would it look on media? Would they censor it? Would they black it out? What side is the media on? It's about a CIA job in a national security type of narrative that they have. Can they spin it and make the people, the protesters, on either political, sociological, genocide, can they spin it to make them look like terrorists? They say, hey, we're shooting usurpers. We're shooting at terrorists that want to bring down our country. We're doing this for you. What is the total opposite? This is the problem in how government, politicians, intelligence agencies, psychological warfare and spinning things, political think tanks, spin things.
Today, in her post, in her speech, he said that President Trump was going to turn the U.S. military against the American public and use the public to promote his agenda. How many of you think that is true? Well, what's interesting to me
is psychological warfare.
The Biden-Harris administration has done something 2 weeks ago that has never been done in American history, which is to send exactly lethal force, to send a directive to the Pentagon, changing the law to make it legal for the U.S. military to use lethal force against American citizens on American soil. Technically now it's legal for the
Both
U.S.
sides should
military
be
under this
scared.
directive. It will become legal for the U.S. military to shoot and kill Americans who engage in political protests because they disagree with policies in the White House. I'm not making this up. Any of you can look it up. This is a Democratic initiative. This did not come during the Trump administration. This did not come from Donald Trump. It came from the Democratic Party. And that's why I left the Democratic Party.
Democrat Party
Do you
isn't what it
believe
used to.
that this 5-2
That the Democratic Party used to be against government dictatorship and against, circumventing any part of freedom of speech and expression. And people say, well, what about LGBTQ, abortion rights, women's rights and stuff like that? That's smoke and mirrors. That's smoke and mirrors, and a lot of it, well, Republicans don't help either. They have their own problems about abortion. That part is true. I have to put that out there. Like I said, both sides want dictatorship, but the Democrats of old, I respected a lot more. They would have, said, let's go out in the streets, let's protest, let's revolt this thing. Democrats of today, it's like, let's censor this speech, let's censor that speech. Republicans are like, there's stuff that we should censor with this type of speech that contradicts our own, not just with adult content, but other stuff that pretty much goes against our narrative. These are the dangers of both political sides and extremists on both sides.
Well, 5240.01. Do you believe that gives the military authorization to shoot Americans that challenge?
They've had that.
I don't know.
They just
That's
put
the
it
thing
right
about it, is because the media says, no, it's fake news. The Hill comes up with an article just a few days ago. Pentagon, no troops not authorized to use force against Americans during election. The Pentagon clarified in a statement Thursday, just the other day, that U.S. troops are not authorized to use force against American citizens during the election. During the election. Interesting wording there. In doing so, the Pentagon pushed back at suggestions by former independent presidential candidate RFK and Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor to former President Donald Trump. The policies concerning the use of force by DOD addressed in 5240.01 are not new and do not authorize the DOD to use lethal force against U.S. citizens or people located inside the United States, contrary to rumors and rhetoric circulating on social media. The Pentagon spokesperson Sue Go said in a statement to the Associated Press, DOD Directive 5240 applies to defense intelligence personnel and explains what kind of support such officials can provide to law enforcement in situations where confrontation or legal use of force is likely. The directive makes clear that while defense intelligence personnel can provide intelligence...
Anyways, I'm going to keep this right here, right now. Tell me what you think. Leave a like, check him out. Why make this law? Why make this amendment? If you're not planning to make it legal, which they could have done anyway, they could shoot out civilians anyways. It's command's decision. It's up to commanding officers, chain of command, if they're going to do it though, or if the president is in sound mind when they give the authorization to use lethal force on civilians. That's what it comes down to, is what they feel comfortable doing it. I see things changing a lot. Why even have this? You shouldn't even have that there. Anyways, tell me what you think.